So I'm just want to ask go through a couple of people asking questions, and I want to try to answer them. Green development is not writing our ordinance. We are making amendments, and our planner and our solicitor are working together, and they are making changes to the ordinance as daily, well, not daily, but as, you know, as is presented. So the ordinance that green development presented from day one does not even resemble the ordinance that we have today. Oh yeah, okay. No, I have I'm not going to call, well, there's something that I want out of green in the interest of the residents in the surrounding area. I would like to see wells tested. If I can get a commitment out of you, a public commitment out of you today to test wells, and then we'll make it part of the agreement, are you willing to do something like that for the people who are concerned about their wells being affected?
We can make a commitment that we will test wells within 500 feet of the boundary.
Well, I want them tested before, and
Sure, there'll be benchmarks. It's just like blasting. So we'll do a pre-construction test and then a post-construction test. Yeah, and then now that can be made as a condition of the planning board at the time that the application is proceeding. But we can't make it as a condition of this ordinance.
I'm not trying to make it a condition of the ordinance, but I just want to go publicly state it, and then we'll make it a condition.
Yeah, we'll make a public commitment that will take place, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
That's a good point. If you test the well, it's not just enough to test it. If you test it before and it's good, you test it after and it's not good, you will remedy the situation, correct?
Sure. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, that's the point.
Right, exactly. All right,
Yeah, misunderstood.
Making it clear.
Yeah, and just so we're clear, the reason why I say not to make it a condition of this ordinance isn't just for green development. It's a general process.
So just to be clear, again, it's 500 feet from the border of the zone.
Right.
Okay.
So it's 500 feet from the boundaries of the project.
That's not that much.
No, not the zone. The zone.
Yeah, you're right.
I just want to make sure we're clear on that. So when you read when we're on a project, so if I'm on a site, it's up the top of the hill, the property line from that site, 500 feet. So if I'm not, so anything that we're on, any site that we're on, you take the perimeter of it, and it would be 500 feet. So if I'm not across the power lines and in the back section of the district of the actual zone, that would put us like probably from the site 3,000-4,000 feet away. So
Yeah, but it's not overlay. It's not a whole overlay zone.
right, I just want to make sure we're not talking the whole overlay zone.
The project.
We're working 500 feet from
project.
property line to property.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I can't start that. I can't open up the public hearing again, because then it'll just,
No one
everybody.
lives within 500 feet.
What's that?
No one lives within 500 feet of where they're going.
Well, I just said the other side.
The overlay district is the area of concern for
No, we
wells.
can keep it.
No.
All right, we can't go back and forth. All right, so. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add?
Yeah, I'd like to add.
McGee?
Yeah, I understand what Mrs. O'Hara said about change and what John said about clearing trees. You can clear trees, whatever you have to do according to zone or whatever is legal. But I gotta be honest with you, the overlay and the way this is rolling, it's rolling too quick for me. And I gotta agree, I don't like all the extra things like we're gonna bypass zoning. That doesn't sit good with me. They're there for a reason, and I gotta be honest with you, I'm not a leader of zoning. I don't know half of what those guys know. I would want their input. So I think, and also with the state coming up on this vote, I think we should know about that. Tonight is not a night with the information and the map, the overlay. when a guy who studies maps for a living can't understand it, that's a problem to me. You know, and we're all looking at it, no one really knows. There's not enough information. And I know it's a first step, but why can't we wait and see what's gonna happen with the state? Or is it a rush because we have to get this done for a reason? What's that reason? It makes me think, why is this going so quick? Because of this meeting that's coming at the State's House? I do my own thinking. I don't care what anyone says. I don't play favorites. You know, I know there won't be a mudslide. No one will be killed. Where that mudslide will be was right down on, it would go right on their own land of the utilities. It would come right down there. They just put up millions of dollars on the poles. There's not gonna be a mudslide, guaranteed. But to be honest with you, you should slow this down, wait, let's listen to this, and everybody has the right to develop it. But let's go through the proper channels. Let's let everybody look at it. I think everybody should look at it. I don't see the reason to rush or do special use or anything. I'd like to just take a look and get it through, but you better take your time, because let me tell you what, if you look down the road and you see these farms, and if you look at the overlay, it's gonna change this town. If you guys wanna be part of that right away without taking a look at everything the way it is today, yeah, things are gonna develop, but let's develop them right. You take your time and you develop them right. You listen to some of the experts. There is a lot of experts out there. I take a lot of people with a grain of salt. Some people, you get up here and you go, well, no, you don't really have to. But some people are on top of things, and a lot of them spoke tonight, and you gotta listen to them. That's what I'm here for. I'm glad I'm here because I like common sense, and I think common sense is to slow down. Let's look at what the state, I mean, you got Mattiello coming up with something, you know, that's big. Let's hear what he has to say before we rush into something that we might be sorry for. So, I gotta tell you, my thing is, I'm not voting for it tonight. I'll tell you that right now.
Anybody else?
I have one comment. It was mentioned that this has been in the works for months. I think, I disagree with that. I think that it was proposed, but at the same time, I'm a new council member. Because of the rules and the Open Meetings Act, it's not that we've gathered and we've discussed anything. So a lot of the information at the prior meeting, I was just receiving at the same time. This is not something that's been going on for months that we were all aware of. We knew there was talk of a solar farm, but I had no details. Am I allowed to?
No. All right, so I'm going to respond. Let's go back a little bit. Let's go back in time a little bit. If you remember, Mr. Soers was up here. This is how a lot of this began. If you remember, Mr. Soers was up here and he was requesting that we purchase open space. And I said that I'm not going to take taxpayers' money and to access the open space bond. But however, if we did find another source of revenue to support open space, the open space bond, I would support that. So we got word of the request for what we're doing tonight for the solar farm. And Mrs. Zelinski and I, we talked and we said, you know what? This could be an opportunity that if this passes, we could offset whatever is going on over for the solar farm. We could offset by buying open space. So we committed, even to Mr. Soers, I committed to him, that we were going to take a percentage of that money, some of that money, we were going to use it to take out the bond, and purchase open space, whether it's a gold property or property on Old Smithfield Road or some other location. We don't know yet, but we're committed to offset whatever, get a credit, carbon credit type of idea. We're going to offset whatever damage is done, whatever trees are taken down over there by protecting space over here. All right, so that was really the whole genesis of this whole thing, is we can save we can save this land over here for open space. And in 25 years, this land reverts right back to where it is. You take the panels down, and it's not like a building. You take the panels down, and it's a field. So that's how the whole thing got started, okay? And the reason why it's not going, as I stated, the reason why it's not going to zoning is because becomes a financial issue. It's millions of dollars, and the people on the zoning board are very qualified people, but they're appointed. And somebody who was, I'll tell you straight out, if we just went to zoning and it was denied in zoning, I'm not gonna override the zoning board. But, so then we're gonna let unappointed, we're gonna unelected officials determine such a magnitude of what millions of dollars will affect this town. So we're gonna let unelected officials determine, it could be just 3, because it's a 5-member board, we're gonna let just 3 officials make this multi-million-dollar decision when we were elected to make those decisions.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, and I got no problem. If I don't like what they come back with, I have no problem telling them no. I'll do what I want. But let me tell you something. I want the most information that we can have for this town, and I think, why not follow that? Why can't we follow that? Who cares if there are 3 people on the zoning board? People are asking, "Kate, can the zoning board be involved?" And everyone's like, "Well, we don't really need them." Oh yeah, I think we do. You know, I mean, why can't they be involved? I just want to hear their opinion. If they come up with something that we say, you know, don't worry about it, then we vote against it. I have no problem voting against anything. I mean, you don't like to do it, it's not a popular thing, but when I try to do something, I try to do it for the town. I'd love to have the money come in for that. And solar, some people love it. I personally don't, because I don't like the eyesore of it all. But a lot of people love it. A lot of people love it. That's just me. But, you know, you got to look at the whole thing. What are we getting in and what's going to happen? But also, I feel bad for a landowner, and he can do what he wants, but just go through the proper channels. And that's all I ask. Go through the proper channels.
But you're not contradicting yourself when you say, we want to go to zoning, but if we don't like what zoning says, we're going to do what we want anyway.
I'm not contradicting them, I just want to hear their opinion. So everyone would say, well, it went to planning, went to zoning, this is what they came back with, and we're elected to make a good decision based on the most information that we have. And I think having the most information, I don't care if a guy in the audience knows a lot, and this guy gets up and says, hey, let me tell you about solar, and he tells me something really good, and I said, oh, I didn't know that. Or if on the other side comes back and says something bad. I'd love to hear, you know, pro and con of everything. I want to know the most information before you make a good decision. That's how you make a good decision, with the most information. I don't say a word.
Right.
Most of the time I sit on the end, you even said it. I sit on the end, I shut my mouth, I listen. I didn't have a question for the lawyer, because I didn't, you know? But when I believe in something, and when I feel like we got to get it right, I'm tough on it, and that's where I am right now. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm putting my opinion in. You guys can do what you want, but I'm not good with the whole overlay and the way it's being bypassed by everything. That's just my opinion.
But what you got to realize what we're voting for tonight. We're not voting for the project. There will be another time that we can vote with yay and nay on the project. And the planning board will have several opportunities to vote yea and nay on the project. All we're voting for tonight is to allow the project to go forward, allow Green Construction to file an application with the planning board to present their plan. That's all we're doing. We're not voting for the solar farm. We're not voting for anything. Anything as far as any particular project. We're just voting to allow them to take the next step, file their application with the planning board. They got a lot of hoops to jump through before it's not, and then before it comes back to us. Once they jump through all those hoops, it comes back to us. If we don't like the way what they came up with the decommissioning, if we don't like with the money that's involved, we can kill it. All we're saying is, okay, go forward to the planning board and present your plan. Then we'll be able to make an educated, we can't make an educated decision right now on the plan. They might be the best plan in the world. We can't make a decision on that. We have to decide after it gets reviewed, after they present their project to the planning board in full. After several meetings with the planning board, 3 or 4, I believe, then the planning board will decide yea or nay. If they vote yea, it comes to us. Then we have the final vote on if it can be killed all along the way. We're just allowing them to take the next step. That's all we're doing here. We're not voting for the project.
That's fine, but if you open up an application, if someone has an application, before it goes to the state and something happens, they've got an application. That's all I'm saying. So I'm just pointing it out. Why do we have to rush this?
It's not.
I want to listen. I want to listen to everything.
At Lightspeed, this project is 4 or 5 months from.
If we
Cutting down a single tree.
vote for that tonight, the process starts, and that's what I'm afraid of. I'd like to hold off until we get more information, and before we give an application a start, I'd like to know. I'd like to know, the rep was here, he said we should wait.
He never said that.
Well, it sounded like it was.
He made it very clear that he wasn't taking a position.
He did.
Yeah, thank you. Just two quick points. One is, I know there's been some discussion with regards to the General Assembly's statute or proposed bill. And just understand that, I don't know where that is in the process of approval, but regardless of what happens to that legislation, if it's approved, this project actually can't go forward. So it ends right there. There's no submission to the master plan, there's no submission. And it also, any other project in the state of similar size would end immediately, because the state statute would trump your ordinances. State statute is the overarching guidance. So it's not that you're doing anything inconsistent with the state statute. If the General Assembly wants to come in and put essentially the kibosh on all these types of projects, it's going to do it whether it does it this year or does it next year, whatever its intention, whatever its goal is, it will do it. Secondly, understand that if we do nothing and we just follow the process, the planning board has, the town council has no say in any type of development incentives. We have no ability to file any or to propose any pilot program. And there's no ability to return to this board if the zoning board decides to deny us. We just go to Superior Court, and we get the project approved to Superior Court if the zoning board didn't meet its requirements. So you don't have, the town council will have no say in the project whatsoever. And I think that's important, because there isn't an ability to overturn the zoning board. And there isn't an ability to ask the zoning board for an advisory opinion. That process is pretty much established by your ordinance now and by state statute. So I don't see that that would be helpful to any developer.
And I can add some additional clarity on House Bill 8141, because we're actually involved in a stakeholder process that is addressing that. There was a stakeholder group that was put together by the Office of Energy Resources, Statewide Planning, and DEM. That's been meeting since August of 2017, looking at citing and putting a piece of legislation in, which is House Bill 7793. That group has met. That bill is in the House. At the same time, there was one member of that group that was not satisfied with the way those proceedings were going, and that one member of the group went to the State House and came up with this House Bill 8141. I can tell you there's a hearing on it Thursday. It's on the record at this point that the Office of Energy Resources, Rhode Island DEM, statewide planning, as well as Acadia Center Conservation Law Foundation, a number of developers and others, Farm Bureau, will all be opposed to that bill. So there is a bill that was pushed by one particular stakeholder in that process, and the other 99% of the stakeholders will be in opposition, so we don't expect that bill is going to make it particularly far.
Mr. Nicolaides, following up on Councilman McGee's question. So this bill is working its way through the state. Question, tomorrow, if the applicant comes in, whether the master plan is in compliance with what's required or not. Master plan basically is to develop conversation before you go to preliminary and final. We understand the steps. So if I were the applicant, I come in tomorrow to the planning office and say,